After a small December wedding in Chicago, Ben and I wanted a quiet honeymoon. Somewhere cold, isolated, and picture-perfect. We picked a rustic mountain lodge in Wyoming, an adults-only retreat tucked into the trees, with log cabins, a wood-burning fireplace, and no cell reception. We arrived just before New Year's Eve. Snow had already buried most of the cabins. The main office looked like something out of a snow globe. Wooden beams, candles, soft music. But it was quiet. Too quiet. The lodge manager, a man in his late 50s named Howard, handed us a real brass key, not a card. Cabin number 6. Try not to walk off the trails, he warned. Snow's heavy this year. You go 10 feet in the wrong direction, you'll vanish. He said it with a grin, but it didn't feel like a joke. Our cabin was cozy but old. The fireplace worked, and the view was incredible. Thick pine trees dusted in white. We didn't mind the silence. In fact, we embraced it. Until the second night, when we found footprints outside the window. One set, not ours. No other guests had checked in. Howard had told us that when we arrived. The third day, we went for a hike along the lodge's marked trail. The snow had softened a bit under the morning sun. About a mile in, we found a trail of fresh boot prints leading off the main path into the trees. They didn't match ours. Ben stopped. Someone else must have gone exploring, he said. But the trail looked wrong. The prints weren't in pairs. They were one foot after the other, like someone walking without balance or dragging a leg. We followed them for maybe 5 minutes before we both agreed it felt wrong. The trees were closing in. The wind had picked up. There was no sound, no birds, no branches cracking, just the wind and snow. That night, we asked Howard if someone else had checked in after us. He shook his head.
No one arrived since you two. Just you and me on the property until 1st of January.
I didn't sleep well. Around 2 a.m., I woke to the sound of knuckles tapping the window, slow and spaced out. Ben got up, yanked the curtain back. Nothing. But in the snow below the window, another set of prints. This time, they led around the side of the cabin. We grabbed the flashlight and opened the door. There was no one. But down the path, just past the tree line, we saw a shape. Something crouched low, watching. We packed the next morning. Ben wanted to leave, hike down to the nearest road if we had to. But the lodge's radio was out. Howard's truck wouldn't start. He didn't even. Sometimes things linger in the woods, he said, looking past us, especially in winter. We left the cabin for good that afternoon, trying to hike toward the main road. Snow had started falling again. Visibility was low. After 30 minutes, we heard movement behind us. We turned. Just trees. But as we walked faster, the sound of someone stepping through the snow followed us, never close enough to see, never far enough to forget. That night, we sheltered in an old ranger station. We stumbled across. It was unlocked, probably abandoned for the season. We blocked the doors with chairs. At midnight, we heard it again. This time, on the roof. We didn't go out. We didn't look. We just waited. When the storm cleared the next day, we were found by a rescue crew. They said we were lucky. We'd wandered into bear territory, that there were tracks near the cabin, but we knew better. Those weren't animal prints. They were human, and only ever a single set. Still, to this day, I don't know what it was out there, but I know what it wanted. It followed us. Only in winter. Only when we were alone. I was never supposed to stay late at school that day. It was a Friday in January, the kind of day where the wind slices your skin and the sun disappears by 4 p.m. The snowstorm from last night had dropped over a foot of snow, and most teachers had bailed early. But I had detention, last one before winter break, thanks to missing too many homework assignments. There were 3 of us: me, a junior named Eli, and a girl from drama club, Kira. Mr. Brenner, the history teacher, supervised. We were told to sit in the library for 2 hours. No phones, no talking. Half an hour in, the lights flickered. Then they died. So did the heat. Brenner cursed and walked off to check the breakers in the admin office. Said he'd be 10 minutes. We waited. 10 became 20. The library grew, colder. Kira started pacing. Eli pulled his jacket tighter. "Didn't they just install new heating last fall?" Kira asked. "They did, but the 200 wings always had issues," I replied. Eventually, Eli suggested we find Brenner. We agreed. Better than sitting in a freezing room. We went down the empty hallway. No sound, no echo. Just our footsteps and the constant ticking of the school clocks overhead. We reached the admin wing. Empty. Brenner wasn't there. The breaker closet was locked from the outside. So where the hell did he go? We tried calling from the office landline. Dead. No cell service either. Probably from the storm. We debated walking home through the snow, but it was already dark and freezing. The road out was barely plowed. We decided to wait a bit longer. Maybe Brenner was checking other rooms. Eli suggested we move to room 209, a math class on the 2nd floor. It had big windows facing the road. If someone drove by, maybe we could flag them down. We headed up. Room 209 was unlocked, but cold, as a meat freezer. We sat near the windows, watched the snow blow sideways under the parking lot lamps. That's when we saw the SUV, parked by the gym entrance. Headlights off. Running. We thought it might be Brenner's, but no one got out. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Still no movement. Eli got nervous. What if someone's stuck out there? Kira said she'd go check. I offered to go instead, but she insisted. We watched her walk across the snowy courtyard from the 2nd floor window. She reached the SUV, stopped. Then she slowly turned and ran back toward the building. She burst into room 209, slamming the door shut behind her. "There's no one in the car," she panted, "but the engine's still warm, and the driver's door is wide open." We stared at each other. Something was wrong. We tried exiting through the main entrance, but it was deadbolted from the inside. None of us had the keys. The security doors auto-lock at 6 p.m. on Fridays. Standard procedure. We were officially trapped. We figured our best chance was to find the security office in the basement. There was a backup radio there that connected to the county sheriff. We had to go through the service stairwell, down into the boiler level. That was our mistake. The basement was colder than upstairs. We walked past old lockers, disused vending machines, and water-stained walls. Then we heard it. Not footsteps, not a voice, a dragging sound. Heavy, slow, metal against concrete. We froze. Kira whispered, "It's coming from the security office." We turned off our flashlights, waited, held our breath. The dragging stopped. Then something scratched the glass of the office door. We didn't wait to see what it was. We bolted up the stairs back to the 2nd floor. The sound followed us, but it never reached the stairs. We barricaded ourselves in room 209, shivering, silent. At 6:43 a.m., a snowplow driver spotted movement in the school windows and called it in. They found us, huddled in a corner, eyes wide, not speaking, but no sign of Brenner, no sign of the SUV, and no one in the basement. Except the security office door was ripped off the hinges, bent from the inside. On the floor was a school-issued walkie-talkie, still pressed down, recording. Last thing it caught, a voice whispering,
"You shouldn't be here after dark."
It was January 11th, the coldest night of the year. I'd been working overtime for almost 2 weeks, helping with furnace failures and emergency heat-outs across rural Minnesota. That night, the dispatcher radioed in one more call before my shift ended. A cabin 10 miles off Route 91. Elderly man named Leroy Parsons. His furnace was dead, and the temp outside had dropped to 21 degrees. "I've already been to the north route today," I told dispatch. "You're closest," she said, and he sounded shaken. I agreed. It was a backroad path, plowed only once that week. Just endless white and tall pines. I had a work van, chains on the tires, full gear, no cell reception. Radio barely worked. Classic middle-of-nowhere service. Cool. When I pulled up to the cabin, it was already dark. A soft glow inside told me someone was home. I grabbed my toolkit and knocked. Leroy answered, mid-70s, hunched over in 2 jackets, hands trembling. "Furnace cut out 2 nights ago," he rasped. "Got a wood stove, but it's barely keeping up." The cabin was old, insulated poorly, frost building inside the window corners. He motioned to the basement door. "Access is down there." I went down the creaky steps with my flashlight. The furnace unit was rusted, a 1980s model, full shutdown. But something was off. The furnace door was unbolted. Wires were cut, not just failed. It looked deliberate. I came back upstairs. "Leroy, did someone try to fix this before me?" His expression changed. Not confusion, fear. "They were here last night," he whispered, "but they didn't fix anything." I froze. "Who was here?" He stared at the door. "Did you close it behind you?" I stepped outside with my flashlight. Snow had started again. Light, flurries. But the earlier tracks were visible. Mine, and someone else's. A separate trail circled behind the cabin. No boot prints. Just long, dragged indentations in the snow like someone crawling. The trail stopped near the woods, but there was no return path. I went back inside and locked the door. "Who else was here, Leroy?" I asked, now more direct. He hesitated. "There's been someone out there. Comes close to the cabin at night. Doesn't knock. Just listens. Sometimes taps on the siding." I wanted to call it nonsense, cold weather hallucination, but I'd seen the tracks. They were real. We stayed in the main room. I started to work on a temporary heat patch, running power to a space heater until I could bring a new unit in the morning. The wind outside picked up. Snow blew sideways, blanketing the windows. Then, 3 soft taps on the wall, right behind us. We both jumped. I ran to the window with my flashlight. Nothing. But Leroy was pale now. "He's back. He's looking for a way in." "He?" I asked. "Who is he?" He didn't answer. Then the power went out. The generator failed. It shouldn't have. I just checked the connection, and it didn't sputter. It was cut, like someone yanked a line. The cabin went dark. Leroy and I lit a few oil lamps. It was quiet, still, until the basement door creaked open, slowly. No one had touched it. I grabbed my flashlight. The staircase was empty, but on the last step, wet snow inside the house. I went down slowly. Halfway into the basement, I saw the side door. It was unbolted, open a crack. Snow had drifted in. I looked outside, and I saw him. Someone was kneeling in the snow, shirtless, head tilted, just watching the cabin from 10 feet away. His skin was pale, almost grey. But here's the part that keeps me up at night. He wasn't shivering, not even blinking. I slammed the basement door shut and locked it, rushed back upstairs. "I saw him," I told Leroy. "He's out there." Leroy whispered, "He's been out there for 3 nights. The cold doesn't touch him." The temperature inside the cabin kept dropping. We put on every layer we could find. And then, at 3:13 a.m., We heard something that made my spine freeze. Footsteps on the roof. Slow, deliberate, creaking across the ice-covered shingles. I raised my flashlight to the ceiling as if that would help. Then silence. Not even the wind. Morning came, and somehow we were still alive. When the sun rose, the roof was clear. No tracks. Nothing. I hiked 2 miles out with Leroy while towing him on a sled. A search crew came back hours later. They confirmed the furnace had been cut with wire snips, the generator line severed clean. No one else around. They never found the shirtless man. But here's the part I don't tell most people. As I left the property, I looked back once, and way out, by the edge of the tree line, he was there again, still kneeling, still watching, and the snow didn't even stick to his skin.